now call on Deputy Martin Kinney, so please, on behalf of the Sinn Féin grouping, there's 10 minutes, but look, I don't think
Thank you very much.
Look for time, so.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and thank you for allowing me to be here this morning. I'm not on the committee either. I'm deputising for Deputy Melda Munster, and to welcome all the people from the different chambers across the North West and the Midlands and down into the Mayo and everywhere else who are here, really to say, and it's a pretty simple message, that it's a region that has been left behind because of an infrastructure deficit. And I suppose all of Ireland has really got a difficulty in that we're well below par in the amount that we spend as a developed economy on our infrastructure. That's just a general comment, and I think it's well recognised internationally. And it's something we need to address, because the big thing that, and it's widely known that, and it's a very simple scenario, that if you have activity, that activity creates opportunity, and that opportunity then creates more activity, and then creates more opportunity, and so the spiral can go upwards. And that is the difficulty that we have for the vast majority of people living in the North West, is that the spiral has either stopped or gone in the opposite direction. It's actually gone downward. And to try and arrest that, really what we need is investment from government. And one of the things that I often hear, and it's widely said, is that, we can only spend what we've got, and we have all this sort of thing that, the economy is like, it's like managing your household budget. You can only spend the money you've got. That's not true, because the reality is that in a situation like this, when you invest money into an economy and you invest it into infrastructure like this, it has a return, it has a payback, and that payback is often greater than what is put in over a long term. And even in a short term, if you look at, and while road building isn't probably the best example, but certainly it's one of the examples, if you spend 100 million, the activity that creates through taxation, through income tax, through VAT, through everything else, they'll get back probably 40% of that 100 million within the first year. So it's not really a spend of 100 million in essence. Plus you have the additional activity that creates around the outskirts of it, which creates more. Because all the people who go to work on the road are going to be buying their diesel and buying their petrol and going for sandwiches and living and creating activity in the local economy as well. So, the point that I want to make very strongly is that government investing in infrastructure of this nature is not a cost. It is an investment, and it is an investment that has a return which is much greater than the cost that's put in place. I think that's one of the big things that's missing out of this, because in the North West, and I'm thinking of Sligo, I'm thinking of Yates Country, I'm thinking of the surfing, I'm thinking of Donegal, I'm thinking of Carrick-on-Shannon and the boating on the Shannon, I'm thinking of all the tourism activity that happens in all of those areas. So that's just tourism. If you add to that the whole opportunities there's there in regard to the economic development that can happen. And recently I was speaking to somebody who had a company, they were senior manager in a company in Britain, and because of Brexit they were thinking about moving some of their production activity, and this person had a connection in Leitrim, and they were talking about moving it and trying to convince the people to move some of their production activity to the North West. And the problem that they hit against was the travel time for their product to the port. And they said, look, we'd really like to do it and it'd be lovely and all that, but we want to be somewhere near Dublin because we can be near the port. And that was the immediate obstacle that they have to try and overcome. And that obstacle can be, is if you like, it's not an obstacle that's put in place by the people that live in the North West. It's an obstacle that's put in place by the underinvestment for many, many years. So really turning that around, and the big turnaround that we have to try and recognise is we have to not only put the investment in, but also have an emphasis on the very positives that exist in that region. Because the production economics in an area which has a lower cost of living, which has lower rents, which has greater quality of life, which has, if you like, and I know it might seem airy-fairy, a happier workforce because of all of those things, are stuff that cannot be bought. It's stuff that cannot be measured in the metrics which some economists will put up there. But it's stuff that makes a real difference to people's lives. And I think if we could recognise that the 14% of people, that 650,000 people that you're talking about in that region, for quite a small investment by government, and it might seem a lot of money, but quite a small investment from government, and has been said earlier by some of my colleagues, the access to that capital is there at a very low interest rate. For quite a small investment, we can turn this around, and we can make the North West into a region, and the West indeed, into a region that can pay huge dividends and can contribute greatly to the overall economic advancement of the country. So I think, the argument you're putting forward here today is certainly been welcomed with an open door from, I think, everyone from all parties would say that. The difficulty we've got is that we have to try and convince the Minister, who unfortunately to date hasn't been open for this to happen. So, we welcome that you're strengthening our hand in respect of that, and certainly anything we can do to raise it with the Minister, with the Taoiseach, with the Government, and even as we have a Taoiseach from the West of Ireland, maybe it could be one of the things that he could put aside as being, before he relinquishes his responsibilities as Taoiseach, that it would be one of his priorities. It would certainly be very welcome if he would do that. So maybe that's something we could put to him when he returns from Canada. But just finally, and I don't think there's any questions I have to ask, because really between your presentation and the questions that have been asked previously, there's nothing else to be said here today, other than that the big issue in all of this is about convincing government that this is not a cost, it is an investment which shall have a return. And I think you have done a good job in that, and I thank you for coming here today and making that clear to us. Thank you.
Thanks.
Eugene Murphy, Deputy Eugene Murphy, who unfortunately can't be here this morning, but just to record his apologies.
Okay.
Thank you.
Noted. Thanks very much. Okay, so